So Netflix just released its newest series, Castlevania, earlier this week, and it has come to high praise, and I can say that it is well earned. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was actually very afraid when I heard that Castlevania was getting a Netflix series, because every single time we've gotten some kind of video game adaptation, they've never necessarily been really solid. In fact, they've normally been kind of laughable. However, I can happily say that Castlevania breaks that trend at last. It's not on the big screen, but on the smaller screen it does quite a good job of presenting us a world that is immersive, that is exciting, that is brutal and depressing, and very Victorian-esque, and just, it's horror. It's really horror in a lot of ways. What did I like about this series? Well, it is beautiful to look at. Actually, one of the first things that came to mind when I saw this was the way the art was drawn. It almost doesn't look computer animated. It looks like it was almost painted on. The backgrounds look gorgeous. The characters on the front of the screen are really brightly colored. They have all sorts of browns and reds, and while it generally would look very depressing, and that's what it was going for, the color palette, while it uses those shades of browns and reds, it still manages to pop out at you, which is something that is very nice to see. However, on top of the color and the way that it's drawn, my one issue, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it an issue, but the one thing that threw me off at first that I had to get accustomed to was the way that it was animated. Now, it's a little bit clunky, and I wonder if that is because of the budget that was given or because of how long these people had to work on it. However, some of the animations for what was going on felt a little stiff. It felt almost like a motion, like a stop motion video. So I couldn't really get the handle of it for a little while. However, once I started watching it longer and longer, I got accustomed to the way that it was drawn and the way that it was actually animated, and it became okay. In fact, it all culminates in a very good action scene later on, near the end of the series, that I won't really spoil if you guys haven't seen it yet. In terms of voice acting, the voice acting for these characters were also very good. The sound direction for this series is very strong, and that was another thing that really stood out at me. There's a lot of mumbling, and at first it kind of bothered me because I was watching with a few friends, and we couldn't turn it up because they had a baby. However, there were a lot of times where I was like, wait, what are they saying? Huh? What's going on now? And so I had to go back and rewatch it, but as I went back and rewatched it, and I was listening to their mumbling, a lot of it actually fit the world. A lot of these characters are kind of speaking under their breath. They are muttering things to each other like that, and it's still very clear to hear. However, it also, there's something about the way they recorded their audio for the voice acting that was just very strong. Our main character, who is Trevor Belmont, is an incredibly likable character with an incredibly strong voice actor who plays him. He's a drunk who's kind of down on his luck, and he's hard, and he doesn't really care about the world or anything like that, and so he just kind of goes from place to place, tavern to tavern, looking to get the next drink, and the next place to nap, and the next place to piss, and that's about it. And so his voice actor does a very good job of conveying that lackadaisical kind of attitude that we would expect out of this kind of character who's down on his luck. The plot focuses around Dracula and his wife, actually. That is the catalyst for everything that happens. His wife is unfortunately killed by humans, and even though he fell in love with the humans, she's killed by them, these evangelical, crazy, religious zealots. And when they execute her, Dracula goes, you know what, that's it, you're all done, you're all going to die. And so he goes out on a grand crusade to wipe out all of humanity. Now, I am very happy that they actually decided to give Dracula a very humanizing struggle and a very humanizing reason for doing what it is that he's doing. He already didn't like humans and he stayed away from them. However, he was convinced by his wife that you should go out, be among humans, and see that they are not all terrible. And then when he does, he eventually finds out that his wife is killed by the very people that she's saying deserve to be shown science because she was a scientist. And so when they eventually execute her, Dracula basically decides that he's going to wipe out all of humanity and that no one is worthy of living. And when he does decide to go on his killing spree, it is incredibly brutal. This show didn't pull any punches in terms of the gore, and in fact the gore is in some ways really unsettling, which is good. Some people might have a problem with that, the way of they portray the violence, but I actually really appreciated that because of how incredibly just visceral it was. That show pulled no punches. You see a gargoyle running off with a baby in like his jaws, and the baby's like bleeding, and I was like, holy shit. There's another one where you see, you know, Trevor like whip out some dude's eye, and again, my first reaction was just like, oh my god. And so that brutality that you see in the show is honestly something that is very refreshing to see, especially when you're dealing with the subject matter. I feel like it's incredibly fitting, and I can't help but think back to Berserk, actually, and how Berserk could have benefited from these people who worked on this video. So art-wise, it's great. Story-wise, it's really captivating and really enjoyable, and the characters are really fun to watch also. Trevor Belmont is a great protagonist to watch. He's incredibly fun, he's incredibly lighthearted, and the people that he meets along the way do a good job of conveying just why it is that they do what they do, and they do a good job of, like, convincing Trevor, you know, to help them through this struggle. Now, the series is only 4 episodes long at the extent of 20 minutes each, so isn't very long. It's about the length of a movie, and it was very clearly an experiment. And I already have heard that they are now confirming a season 2 that is going to be significantly longer than season 1, which gives me a lot of hope, because the characters that are introduced and the story that has been presented to us left me dying for more, really. And so, what did you guys think? Have you seen Castlevania yet? If so, go ahead and comment below about what your thoughts were. Mine were incredibly positive. I would, if I had to rate this movie, or I'm gonna call it a movie because that's basically what it is. If I had to rate this movie, I would give it like I'd give it like 3.5 or 4 stars. The reason why it's not getting a higher rating is because of the way that it ended. It ends very abruptly, and that's honestly its biggest flaw, is that it just is over. There's no conflict resolved. There's nothing that's been done. It doesn't even feel like a season finale, really. It felt like a pilot episode, and that's really what I'm going to call it, is just that this was a pilot. A way to gauge an audience's reaction towards this potential new series and what we would think of it. And honestly, a lot of the critics who have been talking about it have been saying a lot of positive things, myself included. So I think that with season 2, if we get, you know, longer, hour-long episodes, or maybe like 20 episodes that are going on at 20 minutes, that would be great. Or maybe it's probably going to be like 10. I'm probably like hoping for too much, but I want to see more because what we got was great. So, anyway, that's my brief little review for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or not Symphony of the Night, Castlevania, just period. I kept wanting to say Symphony of the Night. That's my review for Castlevania. Let me know what you guys thought. Go ahead and punch your thoughts into the comments below and let's have a conversation about it, you know, because I like doing these movie reviews and stuff also outside of actually video games. It's a lot of fun, and I think that since it is still kind of video game related, right? So, anyway, that's all for now, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up button, and I will see you all around next time. Bye, everybody.